This is The Tone. A pleasure to be here with you today. Just over 24 hours till kickoff. And I am excited. I am pumped. And I had this thought earlier today, and I go, I need to share it with you because it's so important. And I swear, like, sometimes when the news cycle goes, it just, certain ideas just come to the brain. And Bryce Young needs to have his Joe Flacco moment. I remember growing up, Joe Flacco coming off the Super Bowl victory against the San Francisco 49ers. And for 2 weeks, everyone, all the kids, all the fifth graders show up to school in Joe Flacco jerseys. No one has Peyton Manning's number 18 on, no Tom Brady jerseys. Everyone's wearing Joe Flacco's number 5. And for 2 weeks, he was the best quarterback. He was elite. Everyone loved him. Bryce Young needs to have a moment like that. And you had that with Cam Newton. He comes out of Auburn. Cam Newton will never be replicated because he was just such a superstar at the college level. It's never going to be repeated. His aura, what he did at Auburn, leading that team against schools that just were way more powerful than that Auburn team. They had some good pieces, don't get me wrong, but they won some games. They had some upsets. Cam Newton had aura. Everyone wanted the number 1 jersey. And I want everyone to want a number 9 jersey. I want fifth graders not walking around with the perm and a Pat Mahomes jersey. I want them wearing number 9 in the process blue. Number 9 in the process blue. And that starts, the process for that starts on Sunday. And I think these early games for Bryce Young are very important. You got to take care of business against Trevor Lawrence. Kyler Murray, Drake May, Brock Purdy's on the schedule. There's a lot of these quarterbacks on the schedule where I look at the game as not Panthers versus, Niners, Panthers versus Jaguars. I look at the game as Young versus Lawrence. Lawrence is a guy that Bryce Young in year 3 should take the step over. And some analysts believe that. Trevor Lawrence is an interesting quarterback because some people are really high on him. Some people are like top 15, Trevor Lawrence. Other people think he stinks. But needless to say, both are guys. Bryce Young can't escape the adversity. Same with Lawrence. Their career trajectory, a little bit similar. Lawrence, 25 touchdowns and 8 picks in 2022. Led the Jags to a playoff victory over the Chargers. I think they overcame like a 30-point deficit in that game. But Bryce Young, he flashed for a few games last season. Flashed for a handful of games coming in replacement of Andy Dalton, who was benched due to injury. I want to see Young shine over Trevor Lawrence in this game. And you talk about the extension. Well, Trevor Lawrence just got a big contract back in April last year, signing a 5-year, $275 million extension, which only was tied with Joe Burrow at the time for the league's highest paid player. If Bryce Young wants that commitment, he's going to need to take care of business this season. It's important. That's good for me and you because money talks. And as quiet as Bryce Young is, he cares about the money. Believe me, they all do. I want to talk about this, though, because this is something that it's just, I've given you my opinion on it a million times. Adam Thielen's gone. He wanted to go play for Minnesota. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Jalen Coker's injured. Ikem Ekwonu is doubtful. He's probably not going to play Sunday. Does this guy ever catch a break? Does Bryce Young ever catch a break? So we're talking about 2023. The owner calls him a point guard. David Tepper thinks that Bryce Young is going to uplift the whole team to the point where they don't need an offensive line. They don't need wide receivers aside from Jonathan Mingo. And Adam Thielen was really good that season, but asterisk. Continually, Bryce Young faces this extreme amount of adversity. He has no team around him in 2023. 2024, the coach hates him. And people forget, Dave Canales would not have started Bryce Young week 1 of 2024 if it were up to him. He wouldn't have. He liked Andy Dalton even when Bryce Young was benched, and Andy Dalton started that series of games, looked really good against Vegas last year, and then that high was over immediately. But still, Canales wanted to keep Dalton in over Young. And they've talked about mending the relationship, and I truly believe, I'm not going to BS you. If there was a story there, I would tell you. The relationship between Canales and Young has revived itself, and it's a lot better. And I think they're mature guys. I think they're emotionally intelligent human beings. And, that's not good for me because I would love to sit here and talk about coach v quarterback. As long as it was a healthy competition, right? They were always trying to better each other. I really don't think that's there. I don't think either of those guys, Canales and Young, have that sort of edge. But needless, early on, Canales, he's working with Jason Light in Tampa. He looks at the Bucs team, the system, good coach, such a good coaching staff in Tampa that guys continually, like Liam Cohen in Jacksonville, like Dave Canales in Carolina, guys continually get promoted. Their OCs, their coordinators go elsewhere to bigger and better things. Jason Light, the GM, the management of that team, it's been a seamless operation. There's a reason the Bucs are kings of the South over the past couple of seasons. They know how to draft and they have good coaches. Canales comes in and he starts seeing Bryce Young. He starts seeing the system. He's like, puke. What the heck is this? And Bryce Young, he doesn't really have a coach who's bought into his ability. The team around him it's a disaster last season at points. Well, now they have a wide receiver. The O-line meshed over the season. It got better. The running game developed. And now you're here, and again, adversity strikes. Your 2 wide receivers are out. Akem Ekwonu's out. You're going against Josh Hines Allen and Travon Walker in Jacksonville. Superstar, as good maybe as that Texans D-line, Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter, that owned the Panthers' first team offensive line in the preseason. Does the quarterback show up? Does he show up? Is he better than a mid-tier quarterback? Because honestly, I think Brock Purdy, I think Trevor Lawrence, I think those types of quarterbacks, they lose 2 receivers and a left tackle, they're not going to play well. It's that simple. So Bryce Young, from the start in 2025, it's going to have to be he elevates the team around him. He makes Hunter Renfrow a pretty good wide receiver. They put Renfrow's locker next to Bryce Young. That's where he's situated in the locker room. He needs to take Renfrow under his wing and say, you know what, 8 catches. I know you don't even want to be here. I know the team doesn't even want you, but let's go. And fire a spark. And I do ask this question, so I want to go into this clip, which Bryce Young and Dave Canales, they're so tough to read in these press conferences because everything is just scripted from a self-help book. They don't really give you much insight. They don't give you much fire. Here's Bryce Young. He's asked, how do you compare T-Mac, Xavier Legette, Hunter Renfrow to T-Mac, Xavier Legette, and Adam Thielen? Here's Bryce Young's answer.
It's not a ton of looking in the past and comparing and figuring out. Right now is, we know the group that we do have, and everyone brings their own things. And for us, it's making sure that we get people in the right spots. People play like themselves. They've been putting the work in. They've been doing everything great, and I'm excited to watch the guys that we have on the perimeter. Go be the guys that not everyone gets to see the work that they put in. So I'm excited for them to get to display that, and I have all the confidence in the world in them.
I'm going to read into this quote a little bit, but first off, I hate the answer. I hate the answer because it's not the truth. And if Bryce Young wants to be Tom Brady, if he wants to be the best, he's got to play with a little chip on his shoulder. And what happened with Adam Thielen should tick him off. It should tick him off that his wide receiver one over the past 2 seasons gets to a week before the season. A week before the season starts, Adam Thielen, he hears Minnesota's calling. He's like, I'm getting out of here. I can't wait 5 months to move home to Minnesota. I'm out. I'd rather go play with J.J. McCarthy and Jay Jettis. I'd rather go win with the Vikings. And the Vikings, they'll never win the Super Bowl. They're the Vikings. So he's just jump-starting his life after football, going back to Minnesota a few months early. Probably will get a coaching gig there. Adam Thielen, in a way, weaseling his way out and saying, you know what, Bryce, I don't think you're good enough. I don't think here is going to be much better than J.J. McCarthy in Minnesota. If I'm young, I see that going on, and I look the camera dead in the eye, and at least I do this in the locker room, at the very least, and I say, he doesn't want to be here. He doesn't want to be here. And we're going to prove to the league that we don't need Thielen. We don't need guys. We're going to make it work with the guys we have. And he gives you a little bit of an insight. He goes, it's not a ton of looking in the past and comparing. Everyone brings their own things. Not everyone sees the work they put in. I think he has an opportunity in that question to, maybe make a little dig at Thielen. Give the Panthers a little bit of bulletin board material. Give some of these receivers like Renfrow, I think he needs a little bit of a spark. He hasn't played football in a long time in the regular season. He needs a little bit of, all right, this is life or death. The heroes of the Carolinas, name them. The heroes of the Carolinas. Hunter Renfrow's on that list. He is. I don't know how far down the list he is, but this guy wears a cape in the Carolinas. Clemson hero, but, we'll shuttle that up to North Carolina as well. He needs to get on these guys, and I think with that answer, it's just so passive and just, it's not authentic. Deep down, I know he cares, and he needs to stop talking like a therapist all the time. And finally, I found this question interesting from Dave Canales as well. And I think this one, on another note, gives you some insight into the decision-making of the front office. Here's Dave Canales talking about his thoughts on Trevor Lawrence. So he's asked about his thoughts on Trevor Lawrence. Here's what the Panthers coach had to say.
On any given play, like you see some special throws, and he had a lot of success with Brian Thomas last year, and they added a couple more pieces. So, this is a guy that I have a lot of respect for. Not just the player, but also just the way that he carries himself, the way that he continues to lead through some, pretty difficult times, so that speaks to his character. And, I think that Liam's got to be really excited that he has that guy as a focal point of starting this program.
Canales specifically calling out Brian Thomas as an addition to Trevor Lawrence's offense in Jacksonville. Calls out a couple of pieces they've added this year. He was talking about Travis Hunter earlier in the press conference. This gives me insight into how Dave Canales thinks, and we all know he had a seat at the table on draft night. Dave Canales was as integral to the T-Mac decision as Dan Morgan, as Brant Tillis, as Bryce Young, who was pounding the table for the Arizona Wildcats wide receiver. Canales is a wide receivers coach at his core. And coming from Tampa, coming from Seattle, these systems where it's like you have the quarterback, but you also have a good offense around the quarterback. You have elite wide receivers, usually have a pretty good O-line, and you build the offense from the outside in many ways. I mean, you also, obviously, you need the offensive line, but the wide receiver is huge. It's huge, and he honestly considers the wide receiver as an extension of the quarterback. It's like Trevor Lawrence isn't successful because of he's Trevor Lawrence and he's so great. He is good, but he's throwing to this superstar wide receiver. And that's why I think Canales wanted to get T-Mac at 8th overall. They could have gone defense. They could have done a million different things. That's why they were in on DK Metcalf when those trade talks were circulating. The Chiefs don't think this way. The Packers never thought this way. The Patriots, they sure as hell didn't think this way. This idea that you need this superstar, like stud wide receiver is a new age way of thinking. It's a new way of thinking. Canales is leading that in Carolina with T-Mac and Bryce Young at the helm. This is The Tone. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for all your kind comments. I'm going to continue grinding for you. Tone to the moon. We do this together. I love doing this, and your kind words just fuel me more. This is The Tone.